Stop talking about comic books or I'll kill you. I don't care if the Hulk could defeat the Man of Steel. I'm gonna rearrange your face if you continue to debate whether Logan's claws could pierce Steve Rogers' shield. I just couldn't care less if they bring back Craven. And I don't care if Spider-Man's a clone. Stop spending all our cash on back issues of The Flash, or I swear to God you're gonna spend your twilight years alone. You can call them graphic novels. They're still just plain old comic books to me. And I don't see why you must always ceaselessly discuss the post-zero hour continuity. For the last time, I will read those Kirby X-Men. You know that I prefer the work he did for DC. And if you don't want to die, you'll lose that old Street Price Guide, Comic Buyer's Guide, and Wizard Magazine. But please get the new Invisibles for me.
Hey everybody, I hope you're having a great night. So it's great to see you all here. Thanks for coming by. I really appreciate it. It's great to see such a large audience coming in so soon. So thank you very much everybody for all the support. And I'm glad you're excited to see this review. So just want to say hi to some of the regulars. It's great to see you guys back again. Ishra, welcome. It's always great to see you here in the chat. Wilberforce Wooster, you're always in here early. Very punctual. We like a punctual audience member. That's always attractive. Arthur Fleckman, thank you. It's great to have you joining us. I enjoy your tweets quite a bit, so thanks a lot for all the support you give. HG, you're always welcome. It's always great to see you, so thank you very much for being here. Matt 6 Bayer, you're new, and yeah, welcome. I hope you enjoyed the show. We're definitely excited to get into this review, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the content we have here today. And speaking of content, here's Mr. Dongs, our Minister of Content. He's always ready to provide us with something really entertaining to share with the audience, so thank you for being here and welcome. Hellhound Studios, thank you for being here. Welcome. It's great to see you. Vickyverse, as always, it's great to have you with us. You're always welcome to jump in after the review as well. We always enjoy hearing from you. And thank you. So it's great to see everybody here. Velnet, you're jumping in. It's great to see you. And Quaff, thanks for being here. So I haven't seen Testify yet tell us that the show sucks. So we're on a good start so far. So tonight we're going to be talking about your Boi Zack. It's the reviewers reviewing the reviewer. So we'll see exactly how that goes down. We have some impartial, objective review members here. They always give their honest opinion, and they're very forthright. They don't hold back. They don't pull any punches. They'll praise where praise is due, and they'll criticize where some criticism is necessary. So we appreciate them for that. And with that, I'll bring on my review panel, and hopefully you'll welcome them. So first, I'd like to introduce you to Moonshine.
Hello.
Hello. Smug Pug.
What's up, guys? Always such enthusiasm from Moonshine.
Indeed.
Moonshine's always ready to get down and dirty into the review.
The pug doesn't have a phone. He can't talk to us.
No, not this week. No group call this week. I'm leaving the band.
Ah, I see. Well, we'll miss you, Pug, and you're always welcome to find your way home. But we have another reviewer. So Wiggles in the back. Now we haven't really talked about what book we're going to do first. So
wait a minute. Wiggles in the back?
Yeah, Wiggles in the back.
we have a guest reviewer this week.
Well, I guess let's bring him in. So
You didn't clear this with me, well, Red. This is an outrage.
I reached over your dog bowl.
We tried calling you, but you didn't have a phone.
Oh, I guess it's my fault then.
Yeah. So
Yes.
we'll get you a phone. Don't worry. We won't have our reviewers without phones. But
It'll need to be a headset because I don't have hands.
all right, I'll have your owner put it on for you. So let's introduce, without further ado, Wiggle, and he'll be joining us this week. Welcome.
Hey, good evening.
Good
It
evening.
is actually Wiggle with a weird avatar.
It's because I'm on my new fancy PC and I don't have any pictures on it yet.
Well, the good news is I think Pandemic should be reviewed first.
I think it makes more sense for Pandemic to go first as well.
Yep.
And
I
Wiggle,
agree.
that's the book you have, correct?
Yeah, I have that one. It was actually one of the first books I backed when I came into Comicsgate last spring.
That's because you're the new guy.
I am the new guy, yes.
Yes. So I looked at these campaigns a little bit before getting into the review. The first thing that jumped out to me is I noticed a huge drop off in backers. And is that typical with a lot of your Boi Zack projects, where it went from Jawbreakers with 10K to everything else floating between 1K to 2K backers?
Well, the Pandemic was launched with no fanfare whatsoever. I think Ethan was streaming and someone told him, "Hey, Zach launched a campaign," and he was like, "What?" You should also Pandemic also has 2 campaigns, so I think altogether it's about 2,600. But that is at the time rather low for Zach, I suppose. I think he had like 4,000 on the previous Jawbreakers and maybe 3,000 on Iron Sights too.
Yeah, if memory serves, like Lost Souls had about 10,000 backers, and then God King, I think, dropped down to around 6.5, and then on Grand Bazaar and Expendables, I think he's got about 4. So there is a large drop-off with his campaigns. I think the Lost Souls one is because that got a lot of promotion from guys like the Quartering and people outside of Comicsgate, just because, you know, the interference from Mark Waid. So I think that one's a bit of an anomaly, really.
Yeah, I would say this campaign was...
Well,
The campaign page itself wasn't very good, I would say.
this campaign is interesting because this is not the original campaign.
Yeah, this I think is... No, this is the original. There's
No.
also a relaunch called
This is
Pandemic.
the relaunch, I believe.
No, the relaunch only got about 600 backers, I think.
Okay.
The first campaign, I think, made about 50,000, and then the second, I think, 15. So between the two of them, about 65,000, which is still pretty good for a crowdfunded book. I mean, you know, I bet a lot of creators would love to have $50,000 and nearly 2,000 backers for their campaign.
Yeah, and the 2 campaigns together, it's over 2,500. So it's
Right.
very few books get 2,500 backers. So overall, did pretty well.
Right. It's not knocking his status as a crowdfunder. It's just a question regarding his ability to hold his audience. And I'm just wondering, you mentioned that a big reason for the drop-off is because of the way he promoted this campaign. So it's not necessarily commentary on the quality of work, per se. It's simply the way he approaches promoting each campaign. It seems like he takes a scattershot approach to actually offering these books.
I think sometimes that's intentional because he wants to see how much he'll make using different methods. You also see that when we get into production, he'll print things differently just to see what it looks like.
So he's experimenting a lot.
Yes.
In terms of his production methods and his promotion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was almost like, what if I do no promotion? What will happen?
What if I make no money? Will I still be able to publish a book?
I really like the art. Like, that's what you're going through the pages. They look even better colored. Like they're...
Yeah, the art is outstanding. I'll
It
say
is.
that up front.
It is.
For Pandemic,
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know where Zach keeps finding these artists, but Aaron Elfici and Renzo Rodriguez, both very good.
think I'd say Renzo Rodriguez is the best artist Zach has ever had, even better than John Malin.
Yeah, the art in, I guess we don't want to get too much into spoilers yet, but yeah, I liked the art in Pandemic. Great deal.
I actually went through and tried to find mistakes or things that didn't look good, just so we'd have something for the critique on the art. They're very minor points, but we can get to them when we get to them.
I just have one critique for Renzo. He said on Twitter he'd be watching the review, so hopefully he sticks around until we get to that point. I also noticed Havoje point out that Matt Six-Bayer is actually the artist for Rock and Roll Ninja, another your Boi Zack book that's out now.
So is the whole book black and white?
No, it's colored. It's colored by Michael G, so I assume he doesn't want to reveal who he is, but that's who colored it.
Okay. And do we know which book this is for him? So he's had a series of releases leading up to this one. Is this...
you mean Zach?
Yes, Zach.
So before this, he at least... I don't know if the books were out, but there were 2 Jawbreaker books and 2 Ironside 2 books. At least the campaigns had run by the point this was ran. Yeah, I don't think Ironside 2 was quite out yet, but I think God King was shipping or was about to ship.
Okay, so this is maybe his 4th crowdfund?
His 5th.
5th, okay.
He repeats some things sometimes, but this is the 5th unique book he was doing.
So some comments from the chat already. HD says he relaunched Pandemic because he forgot to put it in demand.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, that's what happened.
Okay. And Hellhound Studios thinks $4.99 is going to suck. To be determined.
That's a narwhal discussion, which is a completely different topic.
Yeah, we're going to probably dedicate an episode to Narwhal because there's a lot of mixed opinions on his work as well. HD also says art for Rock and Roll Ninja looks dope, so more promotion for his choice in artists. But then Arthur Fleckman asks, are the critics feeling pressure? You guys are talking too quickly. Slow it down, Moonshine.
Well, I actually had something to say. Am I coming in squeaky or anything?
You're a little soft, but otherwise fine.
You're a little low. A little low?
Let's see. I don't know how to...
It sounds like you're about 10 feet away from the microphone.
That's unfortunate.
Sounds like you're 10 feet underground, Wiggle.
Well,
it's pretty clear. It's just soft.
All right. Well, I'll figure it out later, I guess, or I can come back.
No, it's fine. We can hear you. Just speak up, I guess.
Well, one of the things that appealed to me was how he promoted it, to be honest. Because from what I remember is that it was going to be a story like mirroring like a historical fiction while it's happening, in reference to the pandemic of the spring, like when all the lockdowns are going down and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's many references to events that were happening at the time, in the campaign and in the book itself.
Right. So, I thought it was kind of an interesting idea, and I like the art, so I just, that was one of the backing points for me. I wish it was longer. It's too short.
Yes, it's only 22 pages.
Yeah.
Mr. Dong suggests that maybe you talk through a tube of toilet paper into your mic, Wiggle.
I could get off of here and get on my phone, like the old days.
It's fine for us. I don't know if in chat, is he too soft to hear?
Well, let's continue and see if people raise the issue. So, it's 22 pages, and I agree that... sorry, I'm getting...
well-read is having technical difficulties now.
Is it 22 pages? I thought it was 24 pages.
It's 22.
I think. Sorry, it's me. I think some of the feedback's on your end, but yeah, 22 pages. And
At least when I counted twice, it was 22.
Right, and his choice in artists are getting progressively better, with this one being his best. So I guess it's too early to compare where we think this book might stand compared to the other ones that he's done before. Do we see it progressively improving overall in quality? Or does he have fits and spurts in terms of how good his work is?
You mean in terms of writing quality?
Writing, production, overall. I mean, we like the art here, but does this book hold up well to his previous releases, or did we feel like it was an oddity out of what he's done thus far?
Well, it's closer in tone, I would say, to Iron Sights, but obviously it's much shorter, and obviously Iron Sights is kind of a quick draw style of Cannibalizing. It is only a floppy. Usually he does square bound, but of course, since it's so short, it's just a floppy. The cover is pretty nice on Pandemic. It's a card stock. The pages are, I think he has maybe a matte. It doesn't look quite glossy. There's no fluting if you worry about that. I think in my case, the pages were kind of bound together incorrectly because I can see some of the same double page spread on the seams. They're not perfectly folded correctly.
Mr. Dongs asks, was it $5? Can you remember
no.
how much this was? Was it 15 or 10?
It was $15 plus shipping.
Plus shipping.
That will be a point of contention. If I think if anyone paid $4 or $5 for this book, they would have been satisfied. But it was not $4 or $5.
So overall, a little bit better, it sounds like, than the work that he's done before. But maybe just...
I've noticed some production issues with his previous works. I'm not going to go into them because we'll probably eventually review them. But in terms of the printing and typeset, it all looks good. The colors really pop. I don't think there's a problem with the production. Very, very minor issues, if anything.
And I noticed a bit of a theme with Zack's writing. He likes stories that are grounded in real world settings. He has characters that are typically soldier styled heroes that find themselves in kind of extraordinary circumstances. He doesn't do anything too fantastical, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's fantastical things in the Jawbreakers universe. The kind of the gimmick or the setup is his team is like the first generation of superheroes, which have almost no powers compared to the real superheroes. Whereas in this case, this is an event that could possibly happen in the real world. It's very grounded in reality. It's basically this character, Clarissa. She's a thief and she's robbing a high-rise office building, and she gets caught and she stumbles upon seemingly like a secret meeting of like the world masters or something, talking
like a cabal, maybe.
Yeah, but you don't really hear much. It sounds like a business meeting. It's like, oh, we're making a lot of money during this pandemic. It could easily be that you just walked into someone that just was uncouth about describing the pandemic, but she takes it as like some sort of conspiracy, and she's constantly running away because she fears that she like stumbled upon something, although it's not clear that she actually did.
Well, it says in the dialogue that as she's listening to their conversation, that these were the men who run the world. So I assume Zack's trying to make these guys out to be, I guess, like the Illuminati, maybe, except less occultish, maybe more business and corporate.
But I was taking that as a limited perspective. Like this was her opinion on what was being discussed. It's not necessarily the correct opinion of what they are. It could be, but I think it was trying to say this is what she thought of it, because those things were said while we were staring at her hiding in this tech closet or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's how I read it, actually. Was her interpretation, not necessarily what they said, because there's no quotes of what they say.
Yeah, I actually I wasn't really too impressed with the beginning of this story. So, like, for example, she's in the skyscraper. Like, the story starts off, she's in New York City. It's spring 2020, and she's a thief, like Moonshine said, and she's basically robbing this skyscraper, and she's finding petty cash. She's stealing laptops, and then she tries to take a TV off the wall. It just seemed a little bit unrealistic that an office would have petty cash just lying around. I mean, this isn't a place of business. I assume they'd have, like, credit cards and stuff for that. It just felt like her motivations for being there, like, there'd probably be better places to rob during this. Like, how did she know there'd be petty cash in this boardroom? And I guess the real valuable thing in this type of office would be maybe, like, the data on hard drives. So I don't know. It just felt a little bit strange that petty cash was just lying around, and she planned on stealing this giant TV, which would probably take 2 people to carry. She even mentions, like, the TV on the wall. Like, this thing's bigger than my apartment. So, like, how the hell is...
in an alley, you know?
Yeah, like, how is she going to walk out of this office building carrying a TV that's, like, probably larger than she is? I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you, Jabba, since we don't have Testify.
Yes, we need somebody telling us how much we suck, so thank you. It sounds like he kind of writes by the seat of his pants. I mean, Mr. Dongs has his own way to say it. Zach is an idiot. I wasn't looking for that turn of phrase, but it sounds like the inspiration for these stories are a little spontaneous, and then they just happen very spur of the moment.
Well, I mean, he has the right thing. She's stealing the laptops, which I could believe are there, and it makes sense. You probably could sell those on the street. He just expands it a little bit too far, and it becomes silly.
Yeah, I think Zach's in desperate need of an editor. So when he was storyboarding this, maybe someone should have said, okay, well, why is petty cash just lying around in this boardroom? Like, wouldn't they use company cards?
And wouldn't
or
it,
something
at least
like that?
if there was cash, wouldn't it be in a locked door? I guess she has a drill, but it looks like she just turned... Yeah, there's a key in there, and she just turns it and takes it.
Yeah, like any petty cash would maybe be in a safe or something like that, not just sitting in a desk drawer. And then, I don't know, because it's a company, like, I would have assumed, you know, if there was a safe, maybe there would have been bearer bonds or something like that. Like, it just seems like he could have thought of something better to rob from, like, an office building, like bonds.
What is it, like 1960?
Oh, I'm just thinking of Die Hard.
You know, there's like got little stacks of cash and drawers, like it's back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think like the motivation for her being there is kind of pretty flimsy, really.
Yeah, I mean, the motivation is she worked next door, so, like, she knows this is, like, some sort of fancy business next door, but...
Okay, well, it almost sounds like a Zach stream where he picks on some, you know, random topic and just goes with it for a long period of time.
Yeah, Mr. Dongs thinks, like, he should have made it more action-packed, like, have her actually climbing the skyscraper or something.
Yeah. Why does the comic open with her standing in an office instead of climbing a skyscraper? Climbing a skyscraper, no. Standing around in a room, hell yeah.
Yeah, he's got a point. He's got a point. He said earlier, I can ruin it on page 1. This is a shit book.
This comic sucks.
Well, I would say he's trying to go more realistic, but then he tries to make her steal a 1,000-pound television, so I can't really argue with that.
Yeah, that's the part that really, like, stuck out to me, is like this television's mounted on the wall, and she's like a petite little thief. It's just like, as soon as she unscrews, like, that television off the wall, it's just going to crash on the floor. Like, she's not getting out of the room with that television. I don't care, like, if it's a comic book or not.
And
And this
also,
comes,
it somehow is back on the wall and tiny when the guys come in. It's like that television shrunk, and how'd you get it back on the wall so fast?
Right.
yeah, well, this is one of the criticisms Zach has in his own reviews, and I'm surprised he didn't notice it in his own book, is that Marvel always has these small, petite female characters who are always, beating up the big, burly guys. So now I guess his female character can lift like a massive television. Like this TV is huge. Like it takes up like most of the wall, and
Yeah,
I
it's
just don't see
probably
how.
at least 3 feet tall and maybe 4 feet wide or something.
Yeah, it's a big television.
But then it shrinks. It magically shrinks.
Yeah, it shrinks. It shrinks for some reason.
Because on page 1, it is very big.
But she gets it back on the wall, even though she has it down, and you see them opening the glass door, and somehow it's back up on the wall in the next scene. The TV was like one of the worst parts.
This
Yeah.
this story is already making Mr. Dongs mad. I feel like Zach is trolling us because it's just like his streams. We have to pick on some random point and talk about it for 15 minutes, and he's got us talking about the TV.
You
on the
might
wall
be
for
right.
10
Maybe he
minutes.
was trapping us to talk about this television. It was all a trap.
This is a masterful troll, clearly. So okay, let's follow Zach down his rabbit hole here. So she's in the office. She's stealing big ass TVs that she can't carry anywhere. There's no clear reason why she got into the office to begin with. I'm lifting this whole stream on my back and carrying it. Yes, Jabba is the
Jabba's
wind
Atlas.
Jabba, if only you could carry the TV on your back.
Yeah, give her a hand.
Jabba can barely carry a meatball sub up to his mouth, but and so she hears these guys talking in the next room. Okay, so now this is where the story begins, I take it.
Yeah, so they're
Well,
saying the pandemic is great because we're making lots of money. We just got to convince people to be fearful and follow and do what we say, but make them think they're choosing to do what we say.
Yeah, so as she's stealing the TV, she's basically interrupted, and she runs into like a side room as these, I guess, we'll just call them the Illuminati for now, I guess, because there's no other real word for them.
Yeah, there's very few names in this book. Clarissa gets a name, but that's because later. So there's these Illuminati, but really what you want to key in on is Glasses Guy, because Glasses Guy continues to be throughout this book. But he seems like he's a subordinate, but as you read the story, it seems like he's more important than that.
Yeah, well, just on the dialogue too of like when they first start their meeting, this is another little nitpick of mine. So they start talking about the pandemic, deaths in the millions, profits in the billions. They were discussing the pandemic, and then there's a bit of dialogue here. And one of the guys says, "Considering the uncontrollable nature of this virus, the relative stability of the markets, and the surprising docility of the populace, I think there's an unprecedented opportunity for growth," which doesn't make any sense because during the pandemic, the markets weren't stable. I mean, there was a massive March drop. I don't know how it was in America, but here in Australia, back in March of 2020, there was a massive drop in the ASX stock market. Like billions were wiped out. I was buying at that time because I watched a number of stocks and I bought at the low on a lot of these things. So it's like the dialogue contradicts itself because in order to make money and have growth in the stock market, you need volatility. So if they're talking about the relative stability of the markets, there should really be no potential for growth because the markets aren't volatile.
Is he talking about all the stimulus, maybe like the money being pumped into the markets?
Yeah, the shutting down of small businesses with, corporations, massive corporations are...
I'm just speculating what his line of thinking is here. Like, I agree with you, Sneak Peek. He's off base, but where is he even getting these ideas from?
Well, I just think he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about because he doesn't invest. I honestly think he's wrong and just didn't know what he was talking about. He just had to come up with some... He needed a motivation for these Illuminati guys to be sitting in this boardroom talking about how they could make money, and he just fumbled the ball when delivering it. Because if you look at the pandemic now, I mean, look what's happened. Retail's been decimated thanks to lockdowns.
Wait, Sneak Peek, I know what he should have replaced the dialogue with.
Okay, go.
You should have had him say, "Chaos is a ladder."
Yeah, like maybe something like all these guys were shorting the stocks, and that was going to be their growth.
Yeah.
Like the big short. But he doesn't say that. And then looking at the news lately, I mean, what do you see in the headlines? Like movie theaters are in danger of like shutting down. Tourism and hospitality and dining, they've all been hammered. Retail's been hammered. If this is the Illuminati, like the big wigs, we assume that they'd probably own stock in all of these sort of companies already anyway. So really, they'd be losing money, if anything. I don't know. I just didn't believe the motivation for what these guys were doing in the room as they were explaining how they were going to profit from this pandemic. It just seemed like it seemed off base.
It seems like you're as disappointed with the motivation in the story as I am when they make up physics to tell some science-y type story, like a Tenet or something, that makes up how entropy works. But yeah, I get your frustration here. It's like, didn't you do any research before coming up with the premise here?
Exactly. I think if it just stuck to the dialogue about how they were using the pandemic to gain more control, and maybe instead of talking about the stability of the markets, maybe we can use this opportunity to manipulate the markets. Like just a little tweak of dialogue.
Enough about Bitcoin. Where is the line on it? The chat is right.
I mean, we have images, but I thought we were going to try to get through this story first.
Yeah, let's try our best to overcome Zach's troll.
Oh man!
Every review.
So
the cat is getting restless.
So she gets arrested or taken into custody by security guards and glasses guy, and then Testify HD comes up an elevator and like knows her. It's Paul Blart Mall Cop, so it's Testify.
Yeah.
And he tells her to stop, and he's so slow that she slides under his legs into the elevator.
Yeah, this review already feels like a train wreck. I agree with author Fleckman.
The problem is, like, in broad strokes, I think it's fine. It's action packed. You know what the villains are. It's when you like look at the details though, you're like, wait, that doesn't make sense. You can't think about this story too hard, or it falls apart.
Yeah, if you start asking questions and look too deep into it, it does kind of fall apart. And the security guard's another part where I have another criticism. So, as Moonshine was saying, she gets discovered in the closet. They take her to an elevator. The elevator doors open, and here's Hector, the security guard, and this is where we first find out her name's Clarissa, because he apparently knows her. And the guards ask, "You know her?" And Hector answers, "Well, she used to work here in the next suite over." So I guess we kind of now know why she's in this building. She has some history with it. She maybe knows the layout and knows that the laptops might have been lying around. I don't know what she's doing up in like what I assume is the penthouse area, because this is where the executives are meeting. But she then escapes from Hector quite easily and the glasses guy, and then they blame the security guard. They say, "You helped her," and he says, "No, I didn't." And they kind of chew him out a bit. But then when she gets down back to the lobby in the elevator, she pours some coffee on the floor and trips all of the guards over. And then Hector, the security guard, in full plain sight of all these other security guards, just yells, "Go!" And I was just like, why are you yelling this to her? Like, they're already assuming that you've helped this woman. Your job's probably on the line. You're a security guard. You're supposed to be guarding this place, and you've let her in, assumably to rob the joint. Why, in full view of your superiors who already suspect you, would you yell "Go" as she's already running out the door and just incriminate yourself? Did you guys notice? Did you guys notice that?
I noticed it. Yeah, I noticed that. It was kind of odd. I'm like, wow. I guess gonna get your balls now. I mean, it's weird.
It's either this guy is the dumbest and worst security guard in the world, which explains why I guess he's Testify HD.
Exactly.
But it's just, or Zach just didn't think out how this looks in the book. I mean, I don't know. It's very strange.
Yeah, that's before they get to the security guard. I was just gonna that one I was actually just highlighting because like the red coloring actually was pretty
That's
interesting
the
looking in this place.
server room where they catch
Yeah.
her. And
Yep.
they continue with their meeting. They don't
There's
stop.
the TV. There's a panel with the TV.
Look how tiny it is. Do you have a picture of the first page?
I don't think so.
No?
I didn't think seeing how big the TV was that important at the time. Actually, that TV is medium sized. Like in the second page is when it's like really tiny.
I don't understand this line of dialogue. We need people to feel brave for being scared.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I understand that. I
it.
think, yeah, I think he's trying to say that we need people to think that being scared of this pandemic is brave, because then they're living fearfully and it's going to be easier to manipulate them. So they want people to be scared but feel, good for doing it, which I guess we saw in the real world. They managed to convince everybody to social distance, wear masks, stop in your neighbors if they're, breaking protocols, stuff like that. Basically, encourage this authoritarian behavior through fear.
Okay, so they capture this girl. They take her back to their big board meeting that they're having about this wonderful pandemic that they created. Does this story actually go anywhere? Because this feels like a lot of meandering. So
Well, she's constantly running and getting more and more people chasing her. So she runs into the army because they have a checkpoint, and she like bashes the army guy with the laptop, even though he says, "I'll let you go, but I'll take the laptops." But somehow she needs the laptops that much, and then she runs through some more. I don't know if they're army. I'm not familiar enough with the uniforms to place what they are.
I think they're like,
that gets smashed in the face with a laptop.
Yeah.
well, the first checkpoint's the army, and then I assume the second checkpoint's like a SWAT team, because they're wearing sort of that navy blue uniform with ballistic vests as opposed to like camo fatigues. So I assume it's the police and the army are coordinating.
Yeah. So she gets past them, and then at that point they like stake out all her places. So she's like trying to find a place to go. She runs her motorbike through a grocery store, and then escapes out the back.
Well, can we just go back a second? Can we just let's just go back to the army checkpoint part.
Yeah,
Why
that's
did
right
she
after.
smash? Why did she smash the army guy in the face with a laptop? I mean, she's on a motorized scooter. His hands are already holding a laptop, so he couldn't have grabbed her. Like, she could have just sped away.
Oh, it's even worse than that, though, because he was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna let you off with a warning,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna have to take this stuff off you because I know you didn't,
Yeah, it's either Clarissa's a massive bitch, or Zack just felt he needed to insert a small little action scene, because I guess there hadn't been much action so far.
Well, I mean, he could have just changed the dialogue and said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have to put you in custody for this," and then she's like, "Oh, I can't do that." But he literally just tells her, "I have to take the laptops," and that's it.
Yeah, so let's paint the scenario. She's been pulled over in a checkpoint by these army guys. They notice she's got a bunch of laptops, presumably stolen. The army guy is holding in two hands one of the laptops while she's on a motorized scooter, a few feet away from him. And he says, "Laptops, times are tough, but you can't be looting. I'm going to have to let this slide, but I'm going to have to confiscate these laptops." So she's presumably, not going to get arrested or anything. It's just he's going to confiscate the laptops. And in his hands, he's holding one of the laptops. So his hands are busy. He can't grab her. She could have just said, "Okay, there's one laptop," and then just sped off on her moped. Instead, she takes the laptop that he's kind of holding and she's got a hand on, then smashes him across the face with it. So she could have, yeah,
it's broken.
So it's just kind of strange, like, that she attacked the army guy, because now she is wanted for a crime. She's assaulted a military man.
Well, that's funny is the guy that gets smashed in the face and says, "Don't shoot," and he's a sergeant, and his subordinate says, "Why not?" Because that's a legit question. And he's like, "She's American."
Well, since you're a military man, Wiggle, did you notice something about their flag patches?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with them.
They're reversed.
Well, sometimes they're reversed and sometimes they are not.
Well, the color was fine, but yeah, like some of them were going the wrong way because the stars should be closest to your face, so that way you're looking at it, so it looks like it's being held running into battle.
Yeah, and you never retreat, so it's always got to be facing that way.
And what's kind of funny is because the sergeant is the one that is consistently tore up from the floor up. So, because if you notice, he's the only one that has his. Well, I'm looking.
Yeah, but when he's hit, his flag is wrong. I mean, I can see how the artist got this wrong, but I would think Zach would have noticed that and said, "No, we gotta flip these."
Yeah, he didn't. But yeah, you're right. Good call. I guess I just didn't care enough to pay that close attention.
That was one of my minor. Oh, that art is wrong.
I mean, they kept the rank right, so I just kind of I'm just so used to them screwing up that stuff that I just kind of assume it is.
So this is a little bit ahead. Did you want to talk about the bridge scene a bit, Moonshine?
Well, there's the famous bridge panel, which is controversial, and
yeah. So once she beats this army sergeant with a laptop, she continues on her motorized scooter trying to evade the army, and she arrives at a bridge. And I guess this bridge is what really made headlines.
Yeah, scroll pandemic. Up. Go up. So this presumably is background lines to get the perspective right. And so Zach removed them. It's like, oh yeah, that's not what a bridge looks like. But then I've heard others say, no, the bridge actually does kind of look like that. So I don't know what's wrong and right. It could be. I would assume the cables wouldn't go to the center of the tower, but maybe they do. I'm not sure.
No, it's perspective lines, and I can show you why. He actually fixed it. So in the copy I have, because I bought my issue of Pandemic with a double pack with the Ballad of No on the Ballad of No campaign.
Yeah.
So I guess I have the second printing of this book, and I did take a photo of it just to show you guys. So there's the original, and that's the updated panel.
Yeah. So that's
which looks much better.
So I mean, I assume this is a problem from Renzo to the colorist, and something got lost in translation. But obviously, the responsibility falls on Zach. He's the editor. He's got to say, "Hey, that looks wrong," and fix it. Presumably before you send it to anyone, but apparently someone pointed that out to him, and he fixed it for later editions.
Sweet. I have
apparently it was Dan fans. Yeah, I have the one with the goofy lines too.
Yeah, lines everywhere.
Yeah, if your Boi Zack ever makes it big, I mean, hold on to those issues because they're first prints and they have an error. Normally it's that kind of stuff that goes up in value.
Woohoo.
Yeah, we hope that all our CG books will go up in value someday. But
no, I don't expect that at all.
Nobody's holding their breath.
So the bridge has more people. This way, I don't know. I thought it was somewhat clever. Like she says, "Oh, I'm sick," and she causes a stampede of people to go to the next checkpoint. So that one made more sense, at least in the sense that now she's wanted, so now she has to escape. But
inciting a panic, more crime, so might as well,
Yeah, might as well keep going at this point.
Right.
Yeah, I actually thought that was probably the cleverest thing in this book, is her using the fear of the pandemic to cause a stampede among these, like, I guess you call them sheeple, to overwhelm the two police officers at the next checkpoint. Because the police officers at the next checkpoint, they recognize her. Because obviously she's going to stand out. She's an African-American woman wearing a blue helmet on a motorized scooter, wearing a backpack. And they even say, like, does this dumb bitch not realize we have radios? So at this point, the bodyguards in the skyscraper have obviously contacted the military, and the military have contacted the police. So all of these people are now in tandem in looking for her. She's a fugitive.
Yeah, they give her credit though. They're like, "Oh, she caused a stampede. That bitch isn't so dumb after all."
Yeah.
What's so funny? Well read.
This book sounds like a dumpster fire. Just by
It's-
what we're saying.
Yeah,
The art's
well-
really good though.
Yeah,
you
the
have,
art
you
is
have to
really
realize you have very good art, and she has nice cleavage, so at least she has something nice to look at the whole time.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Yeah, I don't want to get towards spoilers until the rating at the end, but let's just continue. Continue.
oh man.
Oh man, yeah, this is awful. But okay, sorry. I bet this book poisons you if you try to burn it.
Oh boy, yeah.
You'd assume it has evolved to have some kind of defense mechanism from all the predators. But okay, so she gets through this bridge. Well, I'm trying to figure out what is the point of this story exactly. Like, is it a heist?
No, it's a stupid woman that keeps getting herself more and more trouble. It's kind of like It's kind of like a what word? What am I thinking of? National Lampoon's Vacation. She keeps getting herself into more and more trouble because of her stupidity. That's what this is. Don't
like
take anything serious. Take it as a comedy.
It's like the National Lampoons meets the Bourne Identity. I guess.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
I thought we were doing the comedy stream on Sunday with Astro. I didn't realize we were going to do an early version today. But okay, so
Well, you have me here, so things get weird.
yeah, you're inspiring this.
I mean, I'm trying not to shit on this too much because I'll say up front, I just enjoy reading this for some reason. It's like a guilty pleasure to read this over and over again. So I actually enjoy it, but Wiggle won't allow anything to get through tonight.
Well, this was the book that brought me into Comicsgate, and I was like, oh man, this is gonna be great. And then I got it late, of course, and everything's like opening up, and the lockdowns are pretty much over, and I'm like, well, that was that. I am ashamed.
Your reputation will never recover.
I hope not.
I guess this is Wiggle's fault for backing it.
Partially.
I mean, the base concept, I think, is fine. It's like, let's set something in the real world and have an action scene, but plot point by plot point, it doesn't quite work. She never does anything logical. Obviously, you can have characters do stupid things, but why would you do utterly nonsensical things? It doesn't quite work.
It sounds like there's just absolutely no point to any of this.
No, it's just an adventure of a stupid girl. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay, so where does this punishment end?
So she keeps trying to escape. I said she goes to a grocery store, runs out the back.
Oh, hang on, we're skipping ahead again too far. We've got to go to the next fuck up.
Okay.
Before she gets to the grocery store, she tries to go to some houses where, she knows where she can hide out. So maybe like her parents' place, her apartment, her friend's place. So first she goes to her apartment and she notices there's police standing outside the door. And so she assumes, oh, okay, well, I guess I can't go here because they're looking for me at my apartment. And then she goes to her mum's place and there's more police there. So it's clear that they're after her and they're going to all the places where she might be. Then she goes to her friend Jenny's place and the military's there. And she's like, oh, Jenny's here too. I've got nowhere to go. But the thing is they all notice her. They all see her. Like she's driving past on a little motorized scooter with her blue helmet and backpack.
Yeah.
Slip of the tongue with there. But like none of them notice her. So it's like previously in the other checkpoint, the cops clearly know they're looking for an African American woman, blue helmet, motorized scooter, backpack. Here she is driving past her house. None of the police chase after her or grab her. Her mum's place again, they notice her, just drives on past. No one notices. Jenny's place too, drives past the soldiers. Nobody notices. I mean, she kind of stands out.
She's on a moped.
Yeah, I mean, she's African American. She's a woman. She's wearing like a Catwoman black leather jumpsuit with a backpack full of laptops, wearing a blue helmet on a orange moped, and all these people know it. So it's not like she's camouflaged in with people. She'd be very easy to spot, but yet none of the police officers that previously recognized her at the other checkpoint, all of these people who are now at all of her places where she would be, obviously all know like the details of what she would look like, just don't notice her. She's a chameleon now. She's
I honestly think she'd stick out even if it was some white chick, because she's got the blue helmet and an orange moped and some weird. Her outfit's like tactical looking. It just stands out. Like it would be like, really, she's just driving around. Not a care in the world.
I mean, like the army and the police are at all of the places where she could possibly be. Her parents' house, her friend's house, her apartment.
They know who.
Yeah, they know who they're looking for, and they know what she looks like. But she's just breezing on past on her moped. And they're looking at her. They're looking at her, watching her drive by. No one gives chase. No one shouts. No one notices.
And a miracle happened right after that. She found a payphone in 2020.
Yes, and not like this is some alternate past. It literally tells you it's spring 2020. So
yeah.
So I just thought I'd mention that bit, because it seems like not only is the security guard an incompetent character, and not only is she an incompetent character, but the police and nobody does their job in this fucking book. Nobody does their job. The only
guy that does something is Glasses Guy. Glasses Guy gets shit done.
Glasses Guy is the true hero of this book, ladies and gentlemen. He's the character you root for.
So Mr. Dong has a theory on what inspired this story. The comic is a spurg out by the author about having to wear a mask during his everyday chores outside the house. So this is his response to...
So can I get to the end of the story?
Well, I mean, we
Yes, let's just skip to the end. And
tell me about this teepee scene first that I have, because I don't understand how this is in a comic book. What's going on here?
Okay, so she's run through the grocery store. She fell off her motorbike. She's trying to escape, so she runs into the back room and it's like, why is there this food not on the shelves? Because apparently they haven't stocked it yet. So she steals the toilet paper, because remember when everyone wanted toilet paper? And then she immediately gives it to some lady in the street because it's like, oh, I don't need this.
That'll fix everything.
Yeah, this actually I screen capped. Most of the things I screen capped actually were small critiques about art, but we can get to that later. So that's what's happening here. She's acting stupid as usual. So not only does she destroy the grocery store's door, she runs through it and then steals from them, because that'll help lose track of her.
Well, this comes into my next complaint. So she steals the toilet paper. She runs outside the door into a back alley behind the grocery mart. And there's a woman there pushing a pram, and she says, "Here, lady, take the toilet paper." Why did you steal the toilet paper to begin with, only just to give it to somebody outside in the alley? And then, plot twist, the lady pushing the pram has a tranquilizer gun, says, "Thanks, Clarissa, but I've got plenty at home," and then shoots this dumb bitch with a tranq gun.
Yeah, and don't worry, it's almost over.
And then Glasses Guy, who's not even have a sweat, walks up in his 3-piece suit. It's like, got you. Because he's Glasses Guy. He gets whatever he wants.
Yeah.
How did they know? She's on the run. How did they know she was going to end up at this grocery store? Why did she steal the toilet paper? Why did she give the toilet paper away as soon as she got it? How did Glasses Guy turn up right at the time she gets tranked?
And someone asked, that's a grocery store? It's a corner grocery store, which it looks like when she's running through it. It's kind of small, but then they have this gigantic stock room, which must be in a pocket dimension somehow, because there's no way that would fit on a corner market, but that's what that is, what that picture shows.
Yeah, so, and then I guess we're going straight to the end now.
Hold on. We wouldn't have the great shots when she gets tranquilized of her boobs of her lying on the ground and all the.
Oh yeah, there's some very nice cleavage.
There is.
Renzo Rodriguez draws women very well. Just going to
He
say
does.
that right now.
Yes, and there's various women. He's good at well, we can get in the art later, but he's really good at making multiple faces. Nobody looks the same.
Well, we know Zach's got a thing for black chicks, so I'm going to assume this comic is like his Kuma comic. It's his fetish comic. He's just like, yeah, draw me a sexy black woman and show cleavage as much as possible. Oh yeah, do
Stick
it.
it with needles.
Yes, put a needle in her. Show the breasts nearly falling out as she's on the ground.
I will say, Glasses Guy is pretty buff though when he's in his t-shirt. So
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's stuff for the ladies too. So there's something there too.
Should we spoil the twist? Oh yeah, that's right. That's what you guys do.
This book itself is a spoil.
Twisted all of us.
So the twist is Glasses Guy runs a secret organization that is the Illuminati, and he recruits Clarissa because she was so stupid.
Well, this is another question. So she's on the ground. She's tranked. She looks up and says, "Don't kill me." And then he says, "Why?" And she says, "I want to live." And then she passes out. And then she wakes up in Mexico. Why she's in fucking Mexico? Like the Illuminati is in Mexico now.
And her first question after "Where am I?" is why is no one wearing masks? That's the second question on her mind.
So they didn't kill her, or they didn't put her in jail. I mean, she's been running around assaulting military officers, stealing laptops, stealing toilet paper, causing ruckuses, stampedes, breaking quarantine, trespassing. Like, and then they're just like, oh, let's recruit her into the Illuminati. Fucking why?
I mean, this is the Illuminati of all Chads, though. Look at these guys. They're all buff.
What did she do that was so great to get... I mean, if you're the Illuminati, you've probably got access to, like, I don't know, like SAS, Special Forces, like Green Berets, Marines, the best
I mean,
of
look,
the best.
behind his shoulder, you got Mohawk Guy. That's probably like Mr. T's son.
Exactly, but incompetent black woman who steals laptops is now a prime candidate recruit for the fucking Illuminati? Why? Why?
Why not? More people. Yeah, there's nothing cooler than people standing around in a room.
But I have to say, the artist did a good job drawing lots of different people at pretty people.
Oh yeah, like Renzo Rodriguez is too good for Zach. Renzo Rodriguez was too good for this book.
Some people might say Odie was too good for Liam, but that pales in the comparison to what the writing and the art in this book
Xenotype
is.
was better than this book.
Yeah, Xenotype had a story that made some sense.
Xenotype shits all over this fucking book.
It does. I want to see where Xenotype 2 goes. I hope it happens. I mean, I'd be sad without Liam in my life.
So that's Pandemic, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my god.
What did we read? I don't know. What was the point of it?
Wait, what about
Who
the art,
cares?
though? I have some critiques of the art.
Yeah, I thought
Okay.
that's the merciful end. So let's.
Yeah, this is like being nice to it, because now the critiques will be very gentle. So if you just go through the order of the pictures that I posted.
Okay. Sorry, 1 second. I have to bring them up again. But basically, it looked like the Illuminati had a diversity quota to meet, because they were lacking any hot black chicks, clearly, and all those people that were standing around the room.
I mean, yeah, it looks like there's 2 Asian chicks, a ginger, a blonde. Yeah, I guess you're right. There's no black chick. There's a few black guys, but no black chick. Yeah.
So this is Zach showing us how progressive he is, basically.
Well, the Illuminati's just incompetent as well, because now they're recruiting like freaking hood rats off the street who steal shit.
Wait a minute. Maybe they just needed pizzas. Like, she really wanted to deliver that pizza. That's what we need in our group.
I just don't understand the skill set or what she accomplished that would make her a prime candidate to be recruited by this Illuminati.
Like
Hey, can you take out a hardened military man with a laptop sneak peek? Have you ever done that?
I would never try to.
Well, I mean, that's why they recruited her, and not you. So scroll down a little bit here.
We have the TV.
There we go. Oh, okay. So this is one where it's like there's something wrong with this chair, and I don't know if it's actually a line art or it's because the outlines match up, so it's almost a tangent. It almost looks like that chair is like floating in the air by the desk.
Well, there's a tangent line right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something the perspective might be right, but something seems wrong with that chair. It does not look like it's on the ground.
The wheel is on the counter.
Yeah, and it looks like it's on the running or something, even if it were on the ground. So something didn't get right there.
Right.
So that there's my biggest critique of this panel. The bridge we already talked about, so we don't need to do that.
Red Room.
Yep. This was just good art, I think. We kind of already talked about it. It just looks like an interesting scene with the coloring. So the colorist did a good job here, I think. Good thing they didn't shoot her, because that guy ran in and said, "Oh, it's just a power drill," when they were about to shoot her. So Glasses guy is on the ball.
I'm not gonna make it.
Are you about ready for bed?
Oh my god, this is killing me.
Okay, go to the toilet paper.
It's this book. It's not you. It's
Toilet paper.
Okay.
Hellhound says the chair was the true Illuminati. I go down till we see her carrying it. It looks like there's discs. That doesn't look like toilet paper. It's a very minor critique, but there's no depth to that toilet paper unless it's an image on top of the toilet paper for some reason. But those just look like discs.
She stole a pack of CDs.
Yes, that's a lot of CDs there.
Look at the branding, though.
Yeah, I was like, how do you get away with that? Usually you got to change the name a little bit. Maybe this was a sponsored book, which was why it was so cheap at $15. Oh.
It's making me want Oreos, though.
Right? It worked.
Yeah.
How about that?
We're killing Jabba, apparently, and he blames us for how bad this book is.
I felt like killing myself after reading Pandemic. It was a struggle.
Oh, there's one other thing I want to say. If you go through the book and just look at the pictures, as I think Vicky says, you should be able to tell the story by looking at the art and not reading the words. And it's like, actually, you don't even need to read it. You know what's happening. Just so that's props to the artist for just drawing the scene, so you at least know what's happening. In some cases, it makes more sense not reading it.
Yeah. I have just a little criticism of the art. I didn't take any pictures. I just thought I'd mention it. Renzo Rodriguez, he's actually a really good artist. Like I said, I think he's too good for Zack, and he was too good for this book. If I was Zack, I'd be putting him on something like Jawbreakers, because all his facial expressions were really well done. Like the pistols, the AR-15s or whatever they were, like the MP4s, that they were all really well done. The Humvees and vehicles, all really well done. So I think he'd be better put to use on something like Jawbreakers as something compared to this. One minor criticism, I guess, is the cityscape, like the landscapes when it's like skyscrapers. I don't know. There just seems to be something a little bit off with the perspective. I don't know whether you guys noticed it or feel the same way. It's and it is something that reoccurs. If you just give me a second, I'll bring up Impossible Stars. Because Renzo Rodriguez, he worked on Desolation Wave. He done an Expendables variant cover. And he's the main artist on Impossible Stars as well. And he done Pandemic. So he has done a lot of work with Zack for Zack. But one thing I guess I've noticed across Pandemic, and I first noticed on Impossible Stars, is sometimes his cityscapes just don't look right. Like there's something just a little bit off. And I think Impossible Stars is the best example. So here you can see just the city, the angle of the buildings heading towards the main area. Like it just doesn't, there's something just a little bit off about it. And I did kind of notice that in Pandemic as well.
Yeah, I didn't really notice. Take your word for it.
He seems to set up his perspective before drawing each page. He uses a ruler to want to guide the eye to a particular point.
Yeah, I think it's almost a little bit too straight and a little bit too angled.
Yeah.
Like everything else is fine. Like the detail on the buildings is really well done. And like I said, I love his facial expressions. I love he can draw sexy women, the guns, the cars, the Humvees. Everything looks great. So I guess if there was something to critique Renzo on, because he did ask on Twitter when we shared the link for the review, he said, I'm open to criticisms. I guess maybe just work on the perspectives of these cityscapes just a little bit more. Not so much the buildings themselves, but just the...
So you're saying it needs to have more flaws, like a typical city or something?
Yeah, well,
obviously not everything is straight in a city usually. It's got some bins and whatnot.
Well, Hellhound calls it fisheye. And would you agree
there
with
is
that?
definitely fisheye
like
going
a
on there.
walleye kind of thing.
Because there's like a curvature you can see kind of going on.
Yeah, I think this picture on Impossible Stars is probably the worst I've seen it. Like as soon as I seen this picture on Impossible Stars, I instantly noticed it, and it kind of it's a little bit like that on on the first page of Pandemic when she's in the skyscraper and all the buildings are in a neat sort of row on that first page. It wasn't as bad, but yeah, I guess he just needs to work on cityscapes a little bit more. He might not be. He might be new to drawing cities, but that's the only real critique I have of his art. Everything else is great.
Yeah, you mentioned it, but yeah, the faces are amazing. He gives the emotion in the faces almost in every scene. You kind of know what the character is feeling at just the glance of the face. He has many faces. If he drew White Lily, that probably would have been a better book because they would have had appropriate faces rather than slightly off faces sometimes. I think the problem is people like see a face and they draw from a picture, but the humans generally we don't see a face moving. So if you freeze the face at the wrong point, it looks really odd to us, even though a face might actually look like that. But if it's not a face that people freeze, it's gonna look weird.
Hi.
Yeah.
Whereas Renzo seems to always know exactly what to draw to express an emotion, but not look at like we paused the film and their face looks funky.
Is that Zach in a pink furry outfit? Wiggle?
I don't know what's going on. I just got here, and so you guys are reviewing a book. I heard.
Yeah, talking about comic books.
Oh, okay.
Well, speaking of talking of comic books, it's past the hour point. Should we start talking about the second book, Ballad of No?
Sure.
Yeah,
I think that's my cue because I did not read that, so
Okay.
I
you weren't waving hi. You're actually waving bye.
I'm waving by. That's right. It's a perfect segue.
Farewell, our furry friend.
Yeah, farewell.
Bye, Wiggle. I'm sorry your first book was Pandemic.
Well, actually, Wiggle, do you want to leave us with a rating since you won't be here?
Sure. I give it 1.5 missing testy legs out of 2.
Well, I'm sure Testify will be relieved to hear that.
It was awful. I regret backing it, to be honest. I mean, it kind of got interesting enough that I was like, I wonder what happens next, because this is pretty ridiculous, and then it just ends.
Yeah, well, thankfully the review, the discussion part of this has ended as well for that book, so.
Yeah. Have a good night, folks.
All right, you too.
Later, Wiggle. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. Have a good night.
Bye.
Apparently Amit wants the link, but I don't know why.
Well, he probably wants to give his opinion, which he's welcome to. I'll drop the link just as soon as we're done talking about Ballad of No. But
I think Ballad of No will be a quicker review than Pandemic.
It's longer. I think this is 26 pages, but the story is more just things that happen rather than explanations.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 2 reviews tonight, Jabba. We heard you enjoy reviews, so we decided to double up on them.
Well, they kind of tie in with each other because the events in Pandemic, there's little, I guess I wouldn't call them Easter eggs, but they tie into the Ballad of No, and Zach gives the impression that the events of these 2 books are going to cross over in a third book called Theosophy. I don't know how to pronounce the word, Moonshine.
Theosophy, maybe?
Yeah, Theosophy.
Mr. Dongs, can you help us out here?
Yeah. So when Pandemic ends on that last panel, you may have noticed there was a bit of dialogue saying continued in Theosophy. And on the campaign page, he mentions that the events of Pandemic and Ballad of No will be continued in a third book called Theosophy. So I guess if this was a trilogy, Pandemic is book 1, the Ballad of No is book 2, and then there's a third book yet to be released.
Yes.
The expanded Spurgoverse, says Mr. Dogs.
Right. So let's just take a breather for a minute. Zack isn't, despite how this book has been received, he isn't a total dud. So these are some of his earlier campaigns. This is Lost Souls. It's made $400,000. It's got 10,000 backers, and then there is a sequel as well. So he also has, if you give me just 1 second, follow-up is God King, 6,000 total backers, $250,000. So even though there is a pretty big drop-off there in backers, promotion seeming to be a big issue for him, he does retain a fair bit of his audience in subsequent releases. So people seem to like his Jawbreaker series at the very least. And then if we look at the, I think the third one, I had it here as well, Grand Bazaar. So there, 4,000 backers. So again, a drop-off, an issue with promotion, but still a fair bit of retention. So it's interesting, I guess, looking at that, hearing what we just heard about Pandemic. Now, what do we have to expect with Ballad of No? Is it essentially another disaster, or does it slightly elevate?
Well, Zack must be getting his comic book ideas from just watching the news, because while Pandemic was based on, the pandemic, the Ballad of No is based on all the civil unrest that occurred in 2020. So I guess you'd call them race riots, maybe, or just the riots.
Yeah, it takes place in Los Angeles in the summer of 2020.
So again, another 2,000 backer campaign, $70,000 raised.
So not too bad for most people. And again, this book cost $15. So this is another part where Zack tries a new thing. So now the book is in black and white, which is fine, but he uses the same paper stock in the pages as the cover. There's the cover. See, it's not cardstock anymore. It's just
the cover. I'm holding it now too. The cover feels really flimsy. Like you could tear this really easy.
Yeah. I don't know why he chose to do that, because he charged $15 for this book. You could at least put a cover on it. It's like you don't have a cover. Someone ripped the cover off and you're looking at the first page or something. Because the title isn't even on the cover. It just says no.
Okay.
So I guess someone asked, "Can I have a cover page, Zack?" And he said, "No."
Is it meant to... Oh, I guess this is a mask that you can get as well.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, he tells you this is him watching the news and basically writing comic books.
So the good news is you get 4 more pages. The bad news is you don't get color, yet it's still $15.
Well, yeah.
Well, and he's got a theme for this trilogy. It's the Do As You're Told trilogy.
So no, I think this is just the book is Do As You're Told. The trilogy is Theosophy.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Do As You're Told is this book. It's because it's called Do As You're Told, The Ballad of No, which is a horrible fucking title. It is too long. Maybe that's why he didn't put it on the cover and he just put No on there, because he realized Like
I don't know
puppets.
why he just didn't call it the Ballad of No. That works, but
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I see. That was part of the title.
yeah,
Uh,
it's it.
yeah.
The Ballad of No would have been a perfectly fine title.
These look like military boots. I thought this was in the jungle somewhere in Vietnam. With
No,
the
this
palm
is just
trees.
like, people throw shoes up on the telephone wires. That's all that is.
Yeah,
I
but
think isn't that like a gang sign when you see a bunch of shoes like hanging off telephone lines out front of a house? Doesn't that mean normally a drug dealer lives inside or something? Isn't that where that originated from?
I don't know.
well, I mean it's true for shoes, but not for military combat boots. That's the thing that confuses me here. But okay, so now this is set in Los Angeles. This is ripped from the headlines. This has to do with race riots, and it's a story of defiance. Is this another everyday, ordinary character
Not
going through?
exactly. So this is a
No.
mental patient, and he's really crazy. And
Okay.
he drops a few lines of dialogue. This guy's like really strong. He does 200 push-ups a day. So this is a crazy guy that's like really strong, and because there's a riot, he gets out and is wandering the streets of LA because of that.
And he just
Yeah.
says no all the time.
Yeah, that's all he can say. Yes. And when he says no, he will follow. If someone tells him something, he says no, he will do what no means to their command. So he will do the opposite of commands.
Yeah. So you tell him to do like in the opening pages, the asylum's on fire because the riots are in full swing. Some orderlies come in to get him. They say, "Exit your cell now," and he says, "No." And then I guess his psychiatrist says, "Are you new here?" And then she, says to no. She says, "Stay in your cell," and he says no, and then he immediately leaves. So, like Moonshine was saying, he does the opposite of what he's told, which I guess is "do as you're told," and that the title maybe comes into it.
I don't know if I have the will to get through this review.
This one will be a
Yeah,
quicker
this
one.
is he is essentially just he's kind of like the Forrest Gump of the riots of 2020. He's always there and everything, and he gets involved.
Yeah, so he wanders around. Like a fire truck crashes through, I guess, the building, and it's on fire, and it distracts the nurse, and then she notices that No's kind of just wandered off, and now he's wandering the streets of LA during the full swing of the riots, and it almost becomes like a game of trivia, and you can see if you can spot the reference. For example, I have a couple of examples. The first thing that I noticed was this, which I don't know how appropriate this is or why Renfamous or all the rest didn't jump down Zack's throat for it, is here we have a black man with a police officer putting his knee on his head. Does this remind you of anything that happened in America recently?
Does it
No.
remind
Maybe-
you of the trash compactor show's Ghost?
Maybe something that kicked off all this stuff in real life?
Yeah, but in this case, No comes down off a telephone pole because he actually went and got those shoes. Because this is a weird instance. Someone says, "Go get some shoes," and he actually does it. But I guess he doesn't command him. He just says, "Hey, you should have shoes." And so he saves this guy because he like lands on the cop that's kneeling on his neck.
Yeah. In the next spot, the reference, we have a man with a sword getting beat up out the front of his business by some hoodlums. Does that remind anybody of anything that happened in 2020? Maybe a very viral video that went around?
No.
No?
Very good. You're getting into it.
There we go.
And then we also have here a patriot in his pickup truck pulling out a crossbow while being surrounded by a bunch of riders. Again, spot the reference.
Yeah, so this goes into he's the Forrest Gump. He like gets involved in all these situations and like saves people. Sometimes I guess it seems like he cares about people, so he actually is trying to stop people from being killed and whatnot, while just making sure not to do anything that people tell him to.
Yeah. So he escapes the asylum. He walks through the streets. He goes on some wacky adventures. He notices I think it's an ex-basketball player. He's like preaching to a crowd, telling them how it's time to send a message. They can't ignore us anymore. The whole world is watching. Can you dig it? And basically he's trying to stir up the masses into causing a riot. Burn it. He says, burn it down, burn it all down. And some kid skateboards past saying, yeah, okay, boomer. So,
which I think it's revealed that's his son or something.
Yeah, that's his son. Then No goes to a theater where the clerk is robbing the joint, claims that he's just trying to get his. That's the clerk there, who is our George Floyd. And he leaves with the money from the theater. The cops notice, they beat him up. No climbs up a telephone pole to grab the shoes off the wire, lands on the cops, and saves not George Floyd, who then offers him the money, take it, it's yours, and of course No says no.
And then I guess one of the funny parts is like there's a reporter saying, this is a mostly peaceful protest. Let's talk to a man on the street. And he's asking him all these leading questions, and of course No just says no to all of them.
Yeah, so I thought this was actually one of the funnier and cleverest part of the book. So the reporter's there, and there's basically people getting beat up and looted shops behind, and he says, oh, the protests are even more peaceful than yesterday. And there's like the little subheading at the bottom of the news broadcast, and it says, breaking news, thousands turn out for peaceful demonstrations across Los Angeles. And then he questions No, asking, this is such a diverse crowd today. Can you tell us what part of the protest you found most peaceful? And then No says, no. And then the reporter says, well, perhaps you'd like to show your support for local law enforcement. And then he says, no. So I do like that No doesn't really have a stake in any of all this. He is just some random chaotic entity that's just walking through. He doesn't really care about the protests. He doesn't really care about the establishment police. He's just a madman.
And at least this is a good story thread. So the psychiatrist is looking for him, and she finds him because he just appeared on live TV. It's like, oh, there he is. So she doesn't just magically find him. So I guess that's one point in Zach's favor of making a logical decision in this book rather than Pandemic, where no one acts logically at all.
Yeah, I think Mr. Dong's comment there is kind of how I feel as well. He says, I'm going to say this book is better than Pandemic because more shit happens in it, but still dumb shit nonetheless, which I agree with. So the story continues, and he finds the business owner with the sword getting beat up. He rescues the sword business owner, and now he's got a sword.
Yay.
And then we come to a statue. Again, spot the reference. A bunch of protesters pulling down what appears to be a statue. And that's where the Patriot turns up with his pickup truck, and he's going to drive through the crowd and jumps out with his crossbow. And the kid on the skateboard confronts the Patriot. No jumps in front to save the kid on the skateboard that we've seen earlier. And then now they go off on a little mini adventure. Now he's got a little sidekick following him around.
And they go to the free zone that the anarchists set up. That's another good line. It's like the kid says, just stick close to me, dude. These anarchists have a lot of rules.
And they get pissy if you break them. And I guess this is where the twist of the story comes into it. Like Moonshine said earlier, like we see a man in front of his mansion. His mansion's been burnt down, and he says, Dad. And then it's revealed that the basketball player who was stirring up the crowd earlier says, it's gone, it's all gone, my home, my trophies, everything. And his son says, well, you did tell them to burn it all down, Dad. And he says, not like this, not my stuff. They were supposed to attack the rich, not me. I grew up poor. This isn't my fault. And I guess like this is where it's clever again, because you do see a lot of these celebrities in the real world like stirring up the masses to, attack the rich, eat the rich, social justice, blah, blah, blah. But if things ever like devolved into like riots and some sort of like, I guess, revolution, all these rich celebrities would probably be first on the chopping block because they are the elites themselves. So it's almost like they're trying to virtue signal, but they don't exactly understand what they're preaching to these downtrodden classes. So I thought that was probably the smartest thing Zack put in this book.
It feels, I mean, it feels real world whimsical to me, almost like a modern, set in reality, modern Dr. Seuss tale or something.
Yeah,
Cat-
there's not really any side taking either. Like, there's No goes up against like both the police and the protesters because it's kind of like everyone's crazy except for No. I guess that's the twist of the story.
yeah, and he's a bit irreverent. He's like a Cat in the Hat kind of oddity character. That's just almost through his presence, giving you social commentary about all these different events. So it's an interesting idea. I mean, I can't knock it per se. Maybe the execution might not work in every case, but I can see what he was trying to accomplish here at least, unlike the other book, which just seemed like conspiracy, plot twist, run, dumb thing happens, more action. Here, I can understand what he's trying to do and say.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just hearing what you have both said, I feel like it's definitely a big step up from the last book.
Yeah, it's better than Pandemic. I enjoyed reading No a lot more than Pandemic.
I would say it makes more sense. I found it more boring than Pandemic. The outrageousness of Pandemic is it's so stupid it's good it almost reaches. This I just kind of found kind of boring, but I mean, it's more logical and follows the theme, I suppose.
Right. And how does the art compare in this book to Pandemic's?
Well,
so
it's Kelsey Shannon on this book. I just thought I'd mention that.
Yes.
Sorry, Sean, you were going to say something.
Yeah, but he's using almost like a pin stroke kind of style. I don't know if he actually physically did it. He does actually do some inking and paintbrushing. Or this is probably still digital, but it kind of looks like it was almost painted. It's kind of the black on white kind of style that it is. I mean, it's very almost abstract, almost at times. I don't know what you thought about the art.
I thought it was all right. I thought it suited the book. Like, it was simple, but at the same time, detailed. The facial expressions again were really good when you have everyone yelling, and because I guess as the story continues, the father blames No for his house getting burned down for some reason. The police arrive, and then there's a confrontation between No and the police after they shoot the skateboard kid's father in the head.
Yeah, and unlike the other book, No actually gets arrested. But of course, which is also logical, the trial, and they say, well, he's innocent by reason of, or not guilty by reason of insanity, which obviously, of course, this guy's insane. So it's like those events make sense. And now the last page, though, is if you didn't buy Pandemic, probably makes absolutely no sense. So you pretty much have to read Pandemic, otherwise the ending of this book makes no sense.
Yeah.
So the psychiatrist has him in her custody, and she's like, oh, we have to go here and there. And then some glasses man appears out of the shadows, and he says,
it's Glasses Guy.
Yeah,
He's
Glasses
back.
Guy. Yep.
I'm sharing a page now.
He essentially recruits No by saying, because he like pays attention, so he knows what to say, because Glasses Guy is like the only smart person in this universe. So
yeah, so he says, ignore everything I say, disobey every order I give you, refuse the money I offer you, don't change the world. And No says no, and then we get to be continued in Theosophy.
Oh my gosh.
So this is where Pandemic and No, I guess, get linked in the same universe. We have Glasses Guy again. And he's, instead of recruiting an incompetent black thief, now he's recruiting a mental nutcase with retard strength.
Yeah, but he's like really good at fighting, so I guess at least there's that.
Yeah, but he's so wild and unpredictable, and I don't know.
But maybe he's recruiting his handler too. I don't know.
So from 15 minutes ago, Mr. Dongs actually called this. He said his kryptonite is reverse psychology.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now show my second image. That's important to show.
Yep, I'm bringing those up. It's amazing that Mr. Dongs was able to foreshadow much earlier there.
Well, Mr. Dongs, like I've seen some of his posts on Kiwi Farms and his comments in YouTube chats, is like very intelligent, I guess. So.
Now, you want the second image to be shown?
Yeah, second image.
Okay. So, sharing that right now.
Now go down. There we go. So, Well Read supports that position. So,
Kill that motherfucking pig.
yes.
Right. Wait, what pig do I support having killed? The man? Is this us
I think
standing up against the man?
I think Moonshine's going with the meme that you're a communist sympathizer, Well Read, and you
Yes.
support pigs being murdered.
Communist wasn't that bad from a certain point of view.
Those capitalist pigs.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely. Riding high on the hog. They are.
In the plot of the book, this is so he doesn't kill someone because she used his kryptonite, reverse psychology, so he doesn't kill the cop.
It's ironic. I actually paid for the be a character in the book tier, and this is actually my photo.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I didn't know he was so feminine.
Oh, you know, I have my days. But who doesn't? I love the slow talking Well Read. We have to find apparently the right pace for our conversation for Arthur Fleckman.
Well, I think the problem is Oh yeah, there he is in the stream now. See, they're in conflict. It's kind of like this Ballad of No. They were always in conflict with each other.
Yeah, I think we have nothing but the character from Ballad of No running the stream, running the chat. So there's several of them in there. So where does this all end? Basically, Glasses Man recruits No, and they live happily ever after.
Yeah, it just ends. It ends with the recruitment to be
You
continued
saw the
in
end.
Theosophy.
Yeah.
That was the end.
The page after that is a black page saying, "No man can swim unless he enters deep water."
Was there something you wanted to show with this arrow page? Moonshine?
Arrow page.
Let's see. It's right here. He uses a sword to cut
Oh.
an arrow right in half.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's neat. That looks neat.
Yeah, well, that's him. That's him saving the skateboard kid from, I guess, the Patriot with the crossbow who turned up
Yeah.
to defend the statue being pulled down. And the skateboard kid ends up being the son of the basketball player who was inciting the crowd earlier in the book, who then turned around and burned down their home.
Okay. I feel like we're all drained.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Zach has killed us. Let's just give scores. So what would you guys rate whatever that first travesty was that we talked about? Pandemic.
Well, I'd just like to say, whichever book wins, we all lose.
Yeah.
So, Pandemic, I'd say, like in closing, Renzo Rodriguez is too talented to be wasted on this book. Like his art is fantastic, facial expressions, guns, cars, all great. He should be taken off of this and put on Jawbreakers immediately. So while Zach's having like Aaron Alfici draw one issue of Jawbreakers, I'd have Renzo doing the next, so he could put out more Jawbreakers books, essentially. So Renzo's art, fantastic. The coloring, pretty good. No complaints on the coloring. The lettering was by Eric Weathers, so of course, no complaints. He does good work. The story itself, absolute fucking garbage. Moonshine says that the book is a guilty pleasure or so bad it's good. I disagree. It's just bad, in my opinion. It's garbage. And Amit Rayner actually predicts my score because I disliked Pandemic more than Vestige 2, and Vestige 2 got a 4, so Pandemic gets a 3 from me as well, Amit. I completely agree. 3 out of 10 for Pandemic. 3 out of 10 would never read or back again.
You're not looking forward to Theosophy?
No, I don't care. I don't care about Clarissa. I really couldn't give a crap about it at all. I guess now, because Moonshine's just AFK, I guess I'll just go into Ballad of No, and then he can give his impression of the two books.
Sure.
So Ballad of No, better than Pandemic, but not by much. Still just odd. Just odd. I mean, I think I enjoyed the character of No more than Clarissa. He's almost like a Joker-esque sort of character, but he has rules associated with him compared to the Joker, who's just pure chaos. Kelsey's art was fine. I mean, I didn't really care that the book wasn't colored, but again, like, the book just didn't really need to exist either, really, and it wasn't something I was really interested in. So I'm 50-50 on No, so it gets a 5. Could go either way, really. So a 3 for Pandemic and a 5 for No.
Moonshine, I know you don't give scores, but let's question you about where you put this on the spectrum.
Well, I mean, there's if I walked into a comic store and paid $4 Pandemic, I think I would say it's perfectly fine. It has a lot of plot holes, but those things don't generally bother me the way they bother other people. I don't know. I just found it fun to read because it's so goofy. I mean, the art is great. I don't know. The general plot of it, the idea of it, I think, could have been executed better. I think, but the idea is actually solid. Just to set something in the standard day, use the pandemic, and have some idiot run through the streets and get overexcited about things that actually aren't there. So I mean that all works. The execution was a little goofy, but it's so fast paced it doesn't seem bogged down. Like some of these other books, it's just reading them seem like a chore. This is short. It's easy to read. It's easy to reread. So I didn't really have a problem with it too much, except for realizing it is stupid.
I take it you've read a lot of stupid comics in your day, and you're probably just satisfied that there was something to like about it, meaning the art.
I'm just happy it didn't annoy me like so many of these other things, or bore me, or have a woman constantly talking. So it's always good.
Less women for talking for Moonshine.
Yeah, she rarely talks. She just like says, "Oh no," and then runs. So it's perfect.
Eye candy. That's where you draw your line.
Well, she didn't even have to look good. She's just stupid. That was fun. I enjoyed how stupid she was. No, I don't get to say what I think of Ballad.
Oh, sorry, Amit. I'll bring you right back. Sorry. I thought we were done.
No, Ballad of No, it's fine. I like Kelsey's art, but I don't know if I really like the style he chose for this one. It looks interesting. I'll give it that, but it's kind of made it difficult to follow the story, even though, as Smug Pug said, the facial expressions are good and you get an idea of the story. I don't know. I just didn't find it as interesting, even though this guy's supposed to be psychotic. His decisions seem much more sound than the other character. So it was funny reading about her. This guy is just some psychopath saving the day. As I said, it feels kind of like Forrest Gump with a psychopath, rather than what's the appropriate word to use? A mentally limited man.
Right.
And one thing, What I would say though, we probably won't cover it because we don't want to get. Renzo did Desolation Wave. If you just want to show that picture, so I can make my point.
Okay. Let me bring
Should
that up.
be. I think I just have one picture of this.
Yep.
So
What
this is in Jawbreaker's God King.
God King.
Do you have the picture?
Yep. It's coming right up. 1 second. And,
So this is about aliens and outer space type things.
There you go.
So if you want like sexy, muscular aliens and weird looking shit, Renzo Rodriguez can do that too. And so this apparently was a preview, but he's doing Impossible Stars. So my conjecture is Impossible Stars is eventually going to tie into Desolation Wave, which is this Desolation Wave is 10 pages and it's more interesting than those other two books combined because we've talked about this on previous programming, what actually sci-fi is. And sci-fi, I think the key point is the major player in the story is actually scientific an idea rather than the actual characters themselves. So this has an interesting scientific idea of a master race and a slave race, but they have robots, and then the master race gets some sort of disease, so they're all going to die off. So it's like, what are we going to do? And it's like, well, we're going to leave our slaves in charge, but they're still going to be genetically programmed to have to work with these machines. So I think that's an interesting concept. So I hope Renzo eventually gets back to this, and presumably Impossible Stars will tie into this, maybe not, but I think Zack is much better at writing these sci-fi premises. The everyday events, he tried it. I think maybe it's sort of interesting, but I think Zack is better at this, and he should stick to Jawbreaker's Iron Sights and his sci-fi ideas.
Yeah, I agree. I hope this real life event little thing he does ends with Theosophy. I wouldn't go continuing it beyond that. It's fine. Close out the third book if you have to, since you've set it up, but leave it at that. Just go back to Jawbreakers and working on this.
I mean, look at that alien. He's an attractive dude.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Majin Buu, just without the tentacle.
Yeah,
So
I just like that
Moonshine,
Renzo can draw these weird-looking things, too, so that's another point in his favor.
I have a question, Moonshine. So, what did you think of Ballad of No and Pandemic compared to your favorite book on our show so far, White Lily?
Baba Yaga was better.
Baba Yaga was better?
Everything else was worse. I didn't hate these books, and White Lily just started to annoy me greatly. I mean, maybe if this book was 5 issues long, I would have got as annoyed, but since it's short, I didn't get anywhere near as annoyed. I was by probably even the second issue of White Lily.
So White Lily is still your worst reviewed book, I take
Well, on your channel. There's a story in White Lily, unlike another book I have reviewed, which has no story.
Sea Dog.
Yes.
Okay.